Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief. Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. This is your brother, Preacher Moss, live from Leicester, UK. Wow, I am just happy to be in front of the camera, communicating with you, connecting with you. Sometimes when you're on tour and you're doing these shows, when you don't do the shout out show live, which I won't be able to do today, it's just a little bit too tough from when the show's end. Getting from the hotel, from the venue back to the hotel is really 50-50, depending on when the fundraising ends and stuff like that. So as a result, I'm going to pre-record my show, and I hope you guys forgive me. When I get to a spot that's a little bit more stable, if you will, of course, we're going back to live broadcast. But by that point in time, we'll probably be back in the States anyway. So let me just throw that out there. So let me give peace and blessings, first of all. Shout out to some of the amazing volunteers with Penny Appeal, the audiences that have been coming out. I'm talking about audiences I haven't seen since 18 years ago, 15 years ago, coming out, supporting, remembering, and reminding me in some cases of some of the old bits that I used to do. This is a very shared type experience that I'm having out here on the road. And as I get older, I value these experiences a lot more. So our topic today is turning to gratitude during difficult times. Again, that's turning to gratitude in difficult times. Let me explain what I mean by that. I'm over here in the UK, and they're in the midst of political upheaval. The prime minister they had, Prime Minister Truss, lasted 6 weeks in position, and then she resigned. But she resigned in the midst of a country that is in turmoil, dealing with some of the aspects or overlay, I would say aspects and some of the hangover of Brexit that were not resolved, dealing with Boris Johnson, the former prime minister, tax cuts, tariffs, things like that. Energy costs that they're predicted to be 4 times what they were. They're talking about children not being able to eat during the holidays. Literally, these are valid complaints. Now, they're not valid complaints, and these are not people talking about what they think might happen. This has literally been forecasted that this will happen. And then in the United States, here we are going into the midterm elections that, for all intents and purposes, could determine the welfare and quality of life that we have for the next anywhere from 4 to 6 to 8 years. That's a long time. And when I say it's a long time, what I mean is when things happen and say they're not correct, they're not foundationally smart or wise or prudent, something happens whereby it takes quite a long time in the cycle for things to correct themselves. Case in point, we have states who have on the ballots right now the opportunity to take language out of one of the amendments that talks about personage, being able to still own slaves in some regards, or own the rights to people in particular conditions. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's talking about 2022. They're trying to take that language out. And you say, why would they want to take that language out? It's because it's still pre-existing. It still exists. So I think that, even in that space, we really need to look around. And the one thing that has been a salvation for me, a salvation for many of you, is that there's a purity and there's a nobility, a self-nobility. When you can just look around and realize that things are in a very, very difficult position, if you will, but look around and frame in your heart that while they could be worse, they are not. And because of that, we need to be grateful. We're going to talk about it here on the show, on the Shout Out Show. So don't you guys move. Don't you slip anywhere. Just kind of think about this before we come back from the break. This is Preacher Moss talking about turning to gratitude in times of difficulty. All right, back. I want to give a shout out to my shout out family. Also, before I even get started, special shout out to my good friend Adam Ali. Now, some of you guys don't remember Adam Ali, but when we first started the shout out show, some of the graphics that you would see, even the one that you just saw for the show opening, he did those. He's an aspiring VR artist. He's doing amazing stuff in the realm of video, reality, 3D graphics, all that stuff. And he's just a humble brother. Let me tell you how humble he is. Talk about being grateful. When you go on these tours a lot of times, I don't know what it is, but maybe it's just me, but if you're on a tour for 10 days, at some point in time, let's be honest, you got to wash your drawers. You need clean drawers. You need clean shirts, clean socks. Basically, you need to go to the laundromat. Now, every tour that I've been here on the UK, with the exception of 2, there's been an issue because everybody says, we're going to take you to the laundromat. They never take you to the laundromat. And it's hard to find laundromats in some of these small towns. And I brought this issue up, of course, with the promoters and organizers of this tour. Hey, look, I got to have clean drawers. And even more so, I don't like to travel with dirty clothes. A lot of times, I don't know what it is, but they don't allow just for the hour and a half, 2 hours that we can go to the laundromat, wash our clothes, and get back on the bus. It doesn't happen. Was dealing with the same situation, of course, here on this tour. My good friend Adam Ali, this guy who is a visual genius, who makes his own videos, who develops his own special effects. This guy is going to be next level. I mean, watch out Nintendo, watch out Pixar, watch out all his animation. This guy is on the come up. He looks at me and goes, they didn't take you for your clothes? I said, no. You know what he did? He goes, I'll wash them. All the kudos I gave to this young man, he goes, I'll wash your clothes. Not only did he wash my clothes, after dinner last night, he brought them back this morning. We had a beautiful conversation. That's what I'm talking about. And you know where that comes from? Because he says, hey, during COVID, when we were trying to pull everything together, I was trying to make money, we worked together. He said, I'm grateful. And you can see how gratitude is a different type of currency, brothers and sisters. But before we get started, let me give a shout out from the UK to my shout out family. So shout out to Sister Ree. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to you, Derek, and my good friend, my nephew. I haven't seen him with brother Jawan. Shout out, of course, to JT, better known as John Lee Thomas, my main man. I'm talking about Road Dog. And I also want to give a shout out, okay, to Mama Son. Hope you're doing well. I hope the cataracts are working out and you can see your way through things. Shout out to Aunt Maxine Kate, better known as Be Financially Independent. Also want to give a shout out to Brother Bilal and his queen, Sister Sonia Salahuddin. Want to give a shout out to my main man, Eric Carter. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Also want to give a shout out. This is that come on, Sister Rabina Chowdhury. God bless you. Hope you're doing well. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sister Sakina Mujahid. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sister Aika, all the way from Melbourne. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sister Stella Griffin from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Shout out to you. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shout out, of course, to Brother Altaf Rashid out of Toronto. Mr. 6 o'clock straight up, straight down. We call him here our Canadian envoy to the show. Thank you so much, brother. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And Adam Khan, who reached out. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And rounding out the list, we can't forget our dear sister, the executive producer, and the executive producer on the shout out show. That would be a shout out, of course. This is Satana Whitfield. Now, somebody would say, why would you shout out all those people? Like, why shout them out? I'm going to tell you why. And why we shout them out every day. Because every day I wake up, I'm grateful. I'm allergic to being ingrateful or ungrateful because it's a procedural type of intelligence that you can't overlook. It takes so much energy to be ungrateful because it ties into other things like being disrespectful. It ties into other things like being arrogant. It ties into other things about being prideful. It ties into other things about coveting. Hear me now. Coveting other people's blessings. When I say coveting other people's blessings, you want them, but you don't want them you want them without strings attached. No strings attached to the goodness that other people have. I started out the show by talking about what the conditions are over here in the UK. And what is interesting is we've had shows. The lightest show we had last night was sold out of a small venue in Derby, but they still had 200 plus people. And they were energized and they were enthusiastic and they were very, very receptive to what we were doing on stage. But even the crowds that were 600, the crowds that were 800, it was the same thing. And it was interesting. Excuse me. It was interesting to see that folks were coming out in times that were difficult. Not just to see a comedy show, excuse me. They were coming out to express the wealth, the spiritual wealth that they had in their hearts, and coming to a comedy show knowing that the basis of the comedy show is that it's going to be a fundraiser. And not only did they fundraise and give money, they bought the tokens, the souvenirs, the little penny pale bears, and penny bears, and all this type of stuff. And I sat in the back of the room last night, and I waited, of course, for my time to go up, and I watched Azim. Shout out Azim. He was supposed to be on the show today, but we had to move some stuff around. But we're going to get him on the show. He's definitely going to be a guest, and we're going to talk about this. As I sat in the back of the room last night, I visually went on a trip to when that standing in the back of the room, the people in the audience were not there for me. They didn't know who I was. On an open mic type of deal, you didn't know who was closing out the show. It's just an open mic. And the justification to be there was clearly that you wanted to get better. And that validation didn't come from you. It came from the audience who would cue you as to what things were funny, what things were not funny. They gave allowances to let you work out material. And in a way, it was a certain type of mercy from the audience that you were experiencing. And so I sat in the back of the room and I watched and I saw, of course, my name on the poster and the big screen that they had, and people knew who I was. I've been doing this a while. But I stopped and said, isn't this a different type of mercy that you can come here? You don't live here. I don't contribute to the welfare system or education system. But the thing I was able to bring was Allah made me funny, which was an expression of my gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because not only did he make me a comedian, allow me to do comedy, but he allowed me to still maintain the essence of being a servant. I was overwhelmed in the back of the room, almost to the point when they called my name. When they called my name, it was funny because I really had to stop and think about the first time someone called my name to come on stage. The first time someone called my name and they felt like there was a value when they did it. And I also felt like there was a value as I walked to the stage. Listen, in difficult times, it's very easy to start talking about what you don't have. And what I found with gratitude is when you start talking about what you don't have, what you're saying is you don't have excuses to go out and get it. You don't have excuses. You can't explain mercy. And that's an interesting thing. You can't explain mercy. You can't capitulate why somebody showed you a certain thing, why somebody showed you mercy, why somebody shared gratitude to you. You know, comedy is a hard business. Comedy is a hard business. I've been doing this well over 30 years. Zane's been doing this well over 20 some years. We've been knowing each other 25 years. And when you're talking about through the birth of children, loss of life, uh, COVID, um, your big brother, little brother falling out, and the funny thing was when we were sitting at a cafe yesterday, I said, for everything we gone through, the dynamic is I'm always going to be big brother. You're always going to be little brother. I said, and in our different ways, all praises due to Allah. In our different ways, the gratitude is interesting because we still have understanding that we protect one another. That's amazing, isn't it? That despite all of our differences over 20 some years of knowing each other, we still understand that the gratitude we have to one another will always put us in a position that no matter what we're going through, how we disagree, whatever, there's always a mode where I'm going to protect you. And that protection is an extension of the fact that we are so good. You talk about, and you can think about this, some of the people in your circle of influence, some of the people who have been around for 20, 30 years, you look up, you don't realize it's been 20 or 30 years or 40 years. You really, my big brother Rick, I knew Rick when I was 4 or 5 years old. I'm 55 years old. I've known that man almost 50 years. Well, 50 years. And it's interesting because I'm telling you the dynamic that I am grateful for that brother. I am grateful for that brother. I am grateful for his family. I'm grateful for the fact that Allah put him in my space where he could be my big brother. And I can look at him and say, I'm going to draw counsel. I'm going to draw inspiration. The same thing with my cousins. It's the same type of thing. And when you get into that space, let me be even more careful about what I'm saying. When you get into that space, the thing that's really, really lovely is this. And that's my man, Mark Kennedy, right here. Shout out to Mark Kennedy. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. He's calling. But what I'm framing is this. In difficult times, you'll find that the absence of gratitude and the absence of mercy will make this world 10 to 15 to 20 to 100 times more unlivable and more chaotic than it is right now. That we, the people of gratitude, we, the people who understand the meritocracy of mercy, are the people, many in regards, who hold this thing together. Who hold this thing together. The pedagogy of the merciful, the pedagogy of those who are grateful is in line, brothers and sisters, with the fact that we share a certain type of understanding. We share a certain type of creedal agreement. This is whether you're Muslim or Christian or Jewish, and that comes from the fact that you know that everything that happens to you that's good does not happen to you because it's you. Or the things that happen to you because it's bad doesn't happen to you because it's you. It happens by the permission and the permission and allowance in my space of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a principle that I think really been a freeing principle, and I'm going to talk about it at the break. But it's a very freeing principle, understanding that the good that happens to you in this world is not of your own doing. The good that happens in this world is the good you give to someone else. It's the gratitude that you feel is so strong that you can share it. And I'm saying this because, listen, we're in some very difficult times. We are in for some very difficult times. And these times can be transformative. I've gone through a spell, health, death in the family, and it all came in one fell swoop. If you told me the week before everything happened, I was going to go through it, or the month before, I may not have believed you. However, I may not have believed you, but I would have believed you. because I know that things happen in this world and they don't have to come from the hand of Preacher Moss. That there's a space and there's an order that has absolutely nothing to do with me. In many regards, gratitude reminds us that what? Life is a spectator sport. All right. We'll be right back. Don't move.
Hey, babies. Welcome to Radio WCUC, Convenient Urgent Care, home of the smart patient. This is DJ What It Do. You know what time it is. It's the top of the hour, and the request lines are open. You know what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear. Operators are waiting.
I just got to hear Don't Get the COVID.
Don't get the COVID. Put your mask back on. The Delta COVID, more contagious than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get the vaccine. You know that it can keep you safe, and your people living up in your space. Don't get the COVID. You need to wash your hands. The Delta COVID is more deadly than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get your vaccine. You know that it can keep you from dying. Don't leave your family all alone and crying. Don't get the COVID.
We invite you to join our fight against COVID and against misinformation. It's time to listen to the doctors and trust the science.
When I think of people dying that don't have to die, it makes me sad. Now's the time to be sober. Together we can make this thing over. Let's fight the COVID. Convenient urgent care, home of the smart patient.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. This is your brother, Muslim comedy OG, Preacher Moss. I'm here to tell you that the Muslim Comedy Tour, the Super Muslim Comedy Tour, is sponsored by Penny Appeal. This thing is going to be the joint. You're talking about Preacher Moss. We're talking about epic artists. You're talking about the ShOUT Show, reporting live from the road. I'm the host of the ShOUT Show, by the way. Listen, this is going to be amazing. We're all doing it for an incredible cause. Right now, the people of Pakistan need you. You've been seeing it in the radio and the press. They're dealing with floods, massive floods that displaced plenty of people. Listen, come out. Now, I know we got a lot of artists on here. I love them all. Let me tell you something. You've been rocking with me, Preacher Moss, the OG Muslim Comedy, since 2004. This is 18 years we've been doing this thing. We have a relationship. So come out and laugh. Come out, let's do Allah's work. Let's come out and support these brothers and sisters that need our help. Make sure you get your tickets. The streets are talking, and they're talking about you coming to the show. I'm Preacher Moss. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Super Muslim Comedy Show. I think I did that right. Take care. Hey, listen, I hope you're doing well. And for those that are just tuning in, we're talking about our topic is turning to gratitude in different times of difficulty, or in difficult times, however you want to throw it out. You know, I began this space talking about why gratitude is important. Because I feel like gratitude is the, if you will, the co-parenting of mercy. Let me say it again. I feel like gratitude is the co-parenting of mercy. When you are thankful in a space where your human nature, your human intelligence tells you that the good things that happen around you are not because of you. You may work hard, but the life is in a dispersed. You may work hard, but there's a series of decisions and actions for something, against something, that allow you, if you will, to get to this point. And so in times of difficulty, what is interesting and why you can look at gratitude as opposed to the difficulty, you can't necessarily track gratitude. But in terms of human error, human decision, you can track what leads to a difficult situation, or a difficult time, or financial issues, or war, things like that. And all of these are indicative of what? Acts of being ungrateful, acts of lacking mercy. These are not special breadcrumbs, brothers and sisters. Whether it's Ukraine, whether it's these bad elections, whether it's the politicians, we can literally sit back, literally, and pinpoint how people got to difficult times, how folks led them to, the here in the United States is interesting because it's almost the reverse, that people don't want to admit in many regards that they've led or pushed people towards difficult times. I always felt that the spiritual dilemma of slavery for a lot of people, and hear me say, spiritual dilemma of slavery is that despite there was slavery, there was Jim Crow, that something other than the mercy or lack of mercy of the oppressors still delivered these people, my people, your people, but still deliver these people to a space where they have pride and dignity, and they have creative intuitive. They are creatively intuitive. They can somehow figure out a way to elevate above what the problems are. Think about this. The legacy of poverty in the United States is not a legacy where it stopped education. It's not a legacy where it stopped entrepreneurism. It's not a legacy where it stopped religion. The poorest of the poor understand that they're poor. And thus, when opportunities come their way, they have a special type of gratitude, a cohesive, a multi-disciplined understanding of gratitude. Some of the people who are the richest people in the world, and they started out poor, there's a reason why they got to that level. Because it's important to say that these folks understood the position they were in, and they didn't overlook it. And I say this, I'm a former teacher, taught 11 years. The greatest attribute to a student that you can receive after a hard year is when a child acknowledges, your student acknowledges that you tried to help them. They acknowledge that somehow, someplace, it wasn't just you tried to help them, but you found value in them and value in trying to help and assist them to get the way of living, whether it's trying to help them read, understand math, be better people, wash your face, life skills, being able to help your mother or grandmother or father or little brother, little sister with a little bit of information, a little bit of education and knowledge. When that child came back to you, the value that they expressed is something that I can't even encapsulate in terms of words. And the reason I can't encapsulate in terms of words, because, while they expressed gratitude to me, it was not gratitude to me. It is gratitude down the road that I had never seen before, that had already come to me. I'm only creating a platform, acknowledging a platform where, for a moment, we can be in the same space and time and say, thank you. And I would reply to them after they said thank you. I replied to them, no, thank you. Even in the comedy shows, the spirituality and laughter is interesting because I realize that some of the people that come to the show, they're not laughing for themselves. Some of them may have a tradition of trauma. They're laughing for the people who didn't have an opportunity to laugh. Did that. And the ability to frame gratitude as something that is a tool or an experience that gives you greater proximity to God is something I'm still trying to figure out. I laugh all the time, and I'm like, look at the laughs that came before me. The people who express relief, they express security, they express confidence in being able to laugh and share a laugh. Because a laugh, they say, or a smile, they say, is charity. Sometimes I say a laugh is gratitude. Listen, that's it for us today on the Shout Out Show. I hope to be coming to you tomorrow. Tomorrow might be a little stretch. We have to go to Glasgow, and that's about 3.5, 4 hour trip by van, but we got to do it. But listen, you guys have been terrific. You've been tremendous.